wormholes, particle physics, extra dimensions. Are the wonders of so-called reality really what they appear to be? Or do we exist in an elaborate hologram? Is our universe the result of random activity or the result of intelligent design? If a creator was involved, can we discover him through our perception of divine order? This is Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck.
Life is a box of multiverses. You never know what you're going to multiverse. Well, here to know what we're going to multiverse, that doesn't make any sense. It's
not even a little bit.
Not even a little. That one was a little clunky, but that's okay. We'll run with it. Is Christina Peck. And myself.
I know what we're going to multiverse.
You know what we're going to multiverse?
I'm guessing.
Well, today we're going to multiverse extra-dimensional UFOs. So ridiculous. Today
so
we are,
dumb.
Yes, this week we are talking about extra-dimensional UFOs. And one of my favorite topics to talk about because it's so weird and strange, but there's enough eyewitness accounts of these things and videos, and I know some of them are fake, but
a lot of them, yeah, but still,
real people are having real experiences, yet the church, by and large, won't touch it.
Or people in general won't touch it because everybody has a psychiatric disorder because they're seeing things, they're schizophrenic or hallucinating, or they're just on drugs.
If you're lucky, you might get a church that will at least say, well, it's demonic, but then you don't get any other kind of... You don't get the full story though, because there are very malevolent things out there. And this isn't trying to knock church or anything.
No.
I think that just a big part of this is it's just people don't know. People don't really know how that the church that I grew up in, that was kind of the case. Nobody really knew where to fit it in the Bible, so but they at least had the sense that it was demonic, and it is. But
absolutely.
Where to actually fit it in the Bible, what verses to bring up to show, based on Scripture, that these things are demonic.
Right.
That was kind of an issue. And I think that's difficult for a lot of churches, but thank God there are some ministries out there that do deal with this, and I'm feel very blessed to be working with one that does.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So extra-dimensional UFOs, that's what we'll be talking about. But it's interesting because most of the world today recognizes these UFO sightings, if they accept them as something otherworldly, they'll say that they're extraterrestrial. And then we get into the whole idea of the ancient astronaut theory.
Yeah, it's on ancient aliens and
all
that stuff.
Yeah, different shows like that. And it seems pretty prevalent. And if you're unfamiliar at home with what ancient astronaut theory states, it's basically the idea that, and there's different versions of it, just like with anything else, but it's basically the idea that extraterrestrials, aliens from another planet, thousands or maybe even millions of years ago, depending who you talk to, came to planet Earth, seeded life here, which is called directed panspermia, and left with a promise to return again someday. That's basically what ancient astronaut theory is, and it's made popular by shows like Ancient Aliens and things like that. And, we see it as a deception.
Oh, well, yeah.
Now, I personally wouldn't go as far as to say that everybody who believes in that is intentionally trying to deceive people.
No, I think because they tell a good story.
Yeah, I think just
to intrigue people.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just don't know. They don't know how to fit aliens into certain paradigms, and that's how some people choose to...
physics can help.
Yeah.
And extra dimensions, and physics and quantum physics and things like that can help.
Yes, and we're going to talk about in this episode why the idea of extra-dimensional craft instead of extraterrestrial is actually a better fit. I think a good place to start would maybe to look into ancient history.
Yeah.
A lot of times the ancient astronaut theory is based on... ancient history, different texts, but we can use those same texts to show that extra-dimensional might be a better term. Now we are gonna talk about some ancient texts that are not biblical. They are not Christian in any sense of the word, such as Vedic texts. But when we talk about these, I really want to make clear we are not suggesting that we look into these texts for any spiritual reasons. It's strictly history. We could even say that these are eyewitness accounts from the ancient past. But beyond that, we don't take any spiritual guidance from these things, nothing like that. So we're going to be reading through a few things, but the way that we view them is strictly historical. We believe that people, just like people are having real experiences now, people had real experiences then and didn't interpret them correctly. Just like how today a lot of abductees, or they may not interpret that correctly.
Well, look at what they did. These ancient texts, they made a religion out of it. What are people doing today? There are so many cults that want to tap into these beings. They'll have these astro projectional meetings where they go and they astral project themselves to go talk to these things.
Or conjure one
into the room with like 10, 15, 20 more people, or more, or like on mountaintops, they'll get together and they'll do like these weird seances, and then there's an orb in the sky. And things like that. So they're doing the same thing as people in India, other cultures,
the ancient past.
Ancient past.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because in the ancient Indian text, and when I say Indian, I don't mean Native American. I mean actually from India. There's some interesting quotes that talk about, and you hear this a lot in ancient astronaut theory, the Vimanas. That's something that they will go to a lot to support the idea of what's called the ETH, or extraterrestrial hypothesis. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but I want to focus on these Vimanas because it's such a big deal in that community. But when you look at the text and what they actually say, I think it's describing something extra-dimensional.
Absolutely. It's an eyewitness thing. They definitely saw these things.
Now, and I'll say again, we believe that this is fallen angel stuff, demonic stuff, and that people were deceived. You just got to take it for what it is. We don't believe that these are actual creator gods, and if we do happen to use the word gods, we're using a lowercase g, false gods. But interestingly enough, in the Mahabharata, I want to make sure I do say that correctly, in the Sanskrit text, there is this word called pushpaka, and it's actually describing a type of heavenly chariot. Interestingly enough, as a little side note on the pushpaka, that Sanskrit word can also mean serpent.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Thought that was a really interesting and chilling bit of information. But in their texts, the pushpaka, this heavenly chariot, this vehicle, it belonged to a being called Viswakarma. Now, interestingly enough, he is regarded as the chief architect of the universe. And not that I want to go too much on that rabbit trail, but the chief architect, that's like, today, that's Freemasonic language.
Right, because they with their symbols of the compass and the all-seeing eye and everything, and the G represents the chief architect of the universe.
It's the same language. I thought that was interesting.
They say it the same exact way.
And so another chilling kind of.
Yeah, very weird.
So when we talk about the pushpaka and vimanas, we're talking about heavenly vehicles, and in the a text called the Bhagavata Purana. And the reason that I bring this up, the only reason that I really bring all this up is because proponents of the ancient astronaut theory use these to support their claims. So what I want to do is show you at home how you can use these same texts and actually interpret them correctly to refute a lot of these things, because sometimes they don't always quote the thing right, or they'll generalize, or they'll make the whole thing a metaphor for something else.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do that. You can take direct quotes and show that these are extra-dimensional or spiritual things, which, we believe are synonymous.
Yeah, we were talking before the show on the art, the Indian art, when these beings come out of the Vamanas, they're usually depicted and illustrated in an artistic way that is more vibrant than the humans.
Yeah, like the blue skin.
Or the golden skin.
Yeah.
Or reds, or like more vibrant colors, that they're gods.
Yeah.
And I think that's very interesting, looking at the art, that you can definitely tell.
Yeah, that there's something going on. So one quote about these Vamana and I have three or four quotes here. It's all from the Bhagavata Purana because, again, proponents of the ancient astronaut theory use these a lot. One of the quotes says, "The Vamana flashed away into heaven beyond the stars like a thought, leaving a golden trail in the sky, which dissolved in a few moments and vanished above the perfect silence that had fallen on the gathering of men on the earth below." What's interesting here is it says, because they'll use these to say it's an extraterrestrial craft, but it says that it flashed away into heaven beyond the stars. So to me, that screams extra-dimensional.
Yeah, if it's going beyond our known stars, our cosmos.
Yeah. And if it flashed into heaven,
heaven. Yeah, exactly. So
there's another one here that says, the Devas fly down to the earth in their mystic Vamanas, which are swifter than light.
Yeah.
So again, faster than light, physically impossible, but if you take extra dimensions into account, things like that can be possible.
Yeah.
But it's actually, they're saying that these craft are faster than light. How is an extraterrestrial craft going to get around all the paradoxes that would cause? Infinite mass, time travel, basically.
Yeah, time travel. Yeah, because of the impossibility of us in this dimension to go faster than the speed of light, because physically we would be crushed.
Yeah. Way before we even got.
Was it the Manhattan Project or something where they did
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, I get those mixed up too.
Me too. Okay, Philadelphia Project, where Einstein, they folded time and space, and when it reappeared, everybody was like embedded within this vehicle or this object.
It was a ship. Yeah.
They can't. It's physically impossible.
Yeah.
They figured out how to do it. It is possible, but we cannot survive it.
Yeah, and I don't know for sure if that story is true, but if so, man, they just the ideas behind that story. It's either a really good hoax, because I don't know that when that was first talked about, they would have known to describe it in that way, but who knows. But one more quote that I want to talk about, another one from the Bhagavata Purana talks about swarms of Vimanas, saying, which looks like immense flying jewels cut like faceted discs, which fly more quickly than light or time.
Yeah.
A direct quote from an ancient text. I mean, if that is not a perfect description of a UFO, what we would think of it today,
because a lot of people see discs or weird shaped objects in the sky that that are kind of explained in this text.
Now, again, we do believe that this is fallen angel stuff. We don't believe that these are gods in the sense of the God that we worship, of Yahweh of the Bible.
Right.
These are fallen angels, malevolent beings, piloting these ships and deceiving people. We're gonna get more into that, but before we do, I want to give you some information about a fantastic writing contest, and later on about Nita Horn's new book, No Fences. So stay tuned.
To celebrate the release of Nita Horn's inspiring new book, No Fences, Skywatch TV would like you to tell your story, because after all, even if you don't think so, you actually have a story.
Send in your story, and we are going to choose the 10 best, and they'll be published for Christmas release in an anthology of those stories, along with the book that you buy that is actually only $19.95. Am I right on that?
That's correct.
For free. Tom Horn, crazy guy, he's throwing in a journal, which on its own, most of these retail for $20 on their own. So this journal is to help you start writing your story. When you buy the book, not only are you going to be enrolled in this, and you can send in your story, but you'll get a plastic pony, you'll get a journal of your own, and the proceeds from the book are going to help fund the studio we're building for Skywatch Women. And Nita Horn is going to be one of our panel members.
The 10 authors who are selected for the anthology, published by Defender Publishing in time for Christmas, will also receive a $500 cash prize.
That'll go a long way at Christmas time, won't it?
Yes, it will. Even if your story is not one of those selected for the anthology, if you've taken the time to write your story, you've left a legacy for your children and for your grandchildren.
Amen to that.
For complete instructions and details on this opportunity, please log on to skywatchtv.com/nofences.
And we are back. All right, so we talked about from ancient texts the idea of that maybe extra-dimensional is a better word to describe these things that are usually claimed as extraterrestrial. And that's the only reason that we're even getting into these texts is because the ancient astronaut crowd get into them, and we want to try to refute that with our own interpretation.
Right.
But there's this dichotomy between what's called the extraterrestrial hypothesis and the extra-dimensional hypothesis. Basically, the extraterrestrial hypothesis states that UFOs and their pilots are most likely from another planet within our 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time, somewhere in our universe. The extra-dimensional hypothesis, to me, is far more biblically accurate. Not everybody that subscribes to it is a Christian or even holds the Bible into any kind of regards. Of course, I personally do. But I think as Christians, this is a better way to explain what these sightings are. I mean, real people are having real experiences. So the extra-dimensional hypothesis says that the craft and their pilots are from another dimension. And when we consider what that actually means, what other dimensions of space actually entail, things that we have talked about on this show for quite some time, that does make a lot more sense. And again, as we've said before, extra-dimensional and spiritual are synonymous terms.
Right, absolutely. I think that, when I was younger, I grew up in a very small farming community. We saw weird things all the time.
Yeah.
We're right out in the middle of the country. Things that were definitely not planes.
Yeah. You had a really close look at one of those, didn't you?
Yeah. I was at a friend's house, and she was going to come over, stay the night with me, so she's packing up. My sister was taking a nap out in the car. It was in the middle of August, so it was hot. I was about 12 years old. I came out of the house and with my friend, and she wanted to say goodbye to her dog, and the dog is usually right up there at the gate. Always wanted to be a love kiss, whatever. She couldn't find her. She wasn't there, which was weird.
Yeah.
And so, we're walking to the car, and then something catches my eye that's reflecting off of their garage. And well, that's weird. I look up, and there's this thing that's a disc, and it's shooting off this light. And it had like this band around it. I always called it a wavy band because it was like it was humming, and it was kind of like the sound wave, and it was close enough for me to hear it. And it was close enough to me for me to see what was inside the windows.
Yeah.
I saw the beings. They were not grays. I know a lot of people talk about grays. They weren't gray. They were peach. They were peach skinned, taller. They seemed taller. I mean, I don't know if they were tall because from a distance looking up, they seemed average height, whatever that would be. I could see him. Not really him. Put his hands on the windows. He had 4 fingers, and he was like looking down at me, and he had the dark almond eyes, and the wrap around, and he was peach, and I saw some walking around in the background, and when he was looking at me, it was almost hypnotizing, and you could really feel evil, just pure evil. And it was just in a matter of seconds. I was picking up my friend, and she's a big girl. I'm picking her up, and I'm throwing her into the car. I'm like, get in the car, get in the car, get in the car. My sister's asleep. She's not waking up. And so I'm pounding on the windows. And then I look up again, and then it just kind of like whatever, got scared. Just kind of like backed away. And then the whole thing just kind of went backwards. Did this kind of number and went back, did this number again and just took off.
Wow.
And it was just the scariest thing. And I could not speak after we got in the car. My mom turned around to me. She's like, what is wrong? What's wrong? And I said, it took me about 5 minutes to get a breath. I'm like, I saw a UFO. And it was like, it wasn't the first time I've seen one, because like I said, out in the country, we saw things, zipping around the skies all the time, whatever. But it was so scary. And so she went back in the house. She's like, well, I'm going to get her mom, because I don't want her mom to be here by herself, just in case that thing comes back. Again, dog still not there. Dog gone. Don't know where she is. So my mom, after she came back home, back to my place, she said they had an experience in the house where it felt like they felt like they saw this red light inside the home with these black dots, and she said it felt like they were being x-rayed.
Wow.
And shortly after that, and my mom's friend was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
So, and sadly, she passed away.
Yeah, and sadly, there are so many people that have experiences like that and don't know how to interpret it or how to put it into a biblical paradigm. Because you grew up Christian, and I remember when we first started dating, you were telling me that story, and back then neither of us knew how to fit that in with the Bible or God, and we had all sorts of questions.
I used to fear these things because I thought they were physical. And not fallen. I used to fear them more than demons. But then it's like, as I grew up and I studied more, there's nothing really to fear, because they're one and the same, really.
Yeah, and that's the biggest. That's like the biggest takeaway from this, is that there is a biblical answer for these things. It all goes back to Genesis 6, and in the 3 minutes that we have, probably not enough time to get into all that. But
no.
But this is something that is demonic in nature. I mean, there are even serious UFO researchers such as Jacques Vallée, who's not looking at this at all from a Christian paradigm, but who actually admits that these are most likely extra-dimensional creatures, and they're malevolent. They don't want our betterment or anything like that. And actually, he wrote a fantastic paper. It was 5 reasons or 5 arguments against the extraterrestrial hypothesis. And we don't have time to go through all of them, but one of the ones that really stood out to me was he pointed out how a lot of abductees will report these just horrendous, torturous medical experiments that are performed on them. And a lot of them even have the marks to show it, scoop marks and scars. Well, what Jacques Vallée brought out was, think about the state of our medical technology today. If we wanted to implant somebody with something, let's say, we could do that without any pain to the patient.
Right.
They wouldn't even really have to come into a doctor's office. If you could find a doctor on call these days, a doctor could bring the equipment there and just do it. There's anesthesia, so there's no chance that they'll remember, even with hypnosis. They're not going to remember if they're under anesthesia. So the argument is, if these are extraterrestrials that are so technologically advanced that they can get here from another planet light years away, why is their medical field lagging so much? Why is it so brutal and torturous?
It's because they don't care. They're evil. They're out to do harm, just enough to make you think, oh, how'd I get that?
Or
exactly. If you do remember, if they, because a lot of people lose their memory, or they wipe their memory or whatever, or they go through hypnosis to get it back. They scream in agony because they remember the pain, and it's. I luckily, thank God, that it never happened to me or anybody in my family.
Right.
That was as close as it got, and but that's it.
Well, luckily there is a way to stop this stuff.
Yes.
If anybody who's watching is dealing with this, I don't personally believe you're crazy.
No.
And the only thing that consistently has been reported to work is using the name of Jesus to cast this stuff out.
And the same thing that works with sleep paralysis, which
and
sometimes
demonic manifestations and things like that. Yeah.
And sometimes they use sleep paralysis. Like certain cases, I've heard that they use the sleep paralysis, and then sometimes these things enter in.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you?
Yeah.
That's an extra-dimensional demonic being.
Mm-hmm. I
not
couldn't agree
an
more.
extraterrestrial physical being.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And so the name of Jesus always works.
Yep. Well, I want to tell you about this has been a fantastic discussion, and I wish we could keep doing it, but we are out of time. If you're interested in learning more about extra-dimensional crafts and the role of quantum physics in the Bible, you can check out my 2 books here, Quantum Creation, Cherubim Chariots. Cherubim Chariots is more about the extra-dimensional UFO stuff. Quantum Creation is more the quantum physics stuff, but both together for $29.95 at skywatchtvstore.com, which is, it's a $40 value, so it's a great deal. Also, if you want to if you have any questions or would have any suggestions for the show, you can email me at jpeck@skywatchtv.com. And where can they find the show online?
Oh, you can see us online at youtube.com /skywatchtv_official. You can go to our homepage at skywatchtv.com. And if you have Roku, we're on Roku.
And check us out on Roku, like our Facebook page, all that fun stuff. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for watching. Time just seems to fly by every time we do one of these. So thank you so much. As always, take care and God bless.
Most American families are just 72 hours away from disaster. Here at Skywatch TV, we hope we can help avoid that.
I have been given permission to tell about this massive deal. There's one packet where you get one of each of these, breakfast and entree buckets, and again, 25 years shelf life. With that, you will get 15 of these Wise Fire packets. You'll get one of this water bottle. It will filter 99.9% of the impurities out of your water. Also, you will get for free this awesome auto kit.
Now, there's another package.
There are 2 more packages. The second package, you get 3 of each bucket. You pay for those, and you get the auto kit free, you get the Wise Fire free, and you get 2 of these bottles. There's a third deal. You won't believe this one. You get 6 of each of these. You get the auto kit free, you get the Wise Fire free, you get 2 bottles. Guess what else? You get the Mac Daddy 50-gallon water storage container. If the electric grid goes down, one of these is going to come very handy.
3 packages for preparedness, one that feeds a family of 6 for a month, one that feeds a family of 6 for 3 months, and one that feeds a family of 6 for half a year, and of course that includes the 50-gallon water tank. You'll find all of those deals online, the Wise Food Preparedness Specials at skywatchtvstore.com.